Here we go. Hi everyone. The audio is still playing. Let me just sort of manually crossfade that down. Pretty cool song there. I kind of like that, although that was not really what this playlist was meant to be. It's supposed to be lo-fi vaporwave, but it's more synthwave than vaporwave. I don't know why I don't know. Maybe it's picking up a more general. Like, I don't know if it's actually playing a playlist. Maybe it's actually just playing something that it thinks I would like. So I don't know. That's my Spotify. That's what's going on there. Okay, so good afternoon. I hope you're doing well, whoever's watching. It's a dreary, rainy, wet day. I have my ukulele, not my ukulele, I have my son's ukulele here. I assume he doesn't mind if I borrow it. He's at a doctor's appointment, so I thought I could try it out. He's 8, so he's just learning, and he's had this for a couple of years actually. We got it for him when he was 6, but he's it's hard to learn a new instrument, but I think that the ukulele is a really fun instrument to play. I don't know many songs on it though, and I certainly can't sing, so I can't really entertain you all that way. A little Tiptoe Through the Tulips. It's kind of the only song I know actually, but it's it's the kind of thing, like, I mean, I play guitar, so like figuring out how to play it is fine. That's not tricky, but knowing what songs and chords are going to sound good on it is kind of tricky, and I don't know them basically. So yeah, hey everyone, I'd like to see you all saying hey. Emily Hall, hi everyone. Wayne, Jesse Bear, Waffle King Jr., good to see you all. And Jesse Bear, ukuleles are a lot of fun, especially if you play guitar a little bit, but just as a first instrument. I mean, the main thing is, like, you see how small the neck is. I think one of the tricks with especially acoustic guitar when you're learning it is just you really need some hand strength and dexterity to play it at all. And so it can kind of be frustrating when you're, like my son, he's 8 years old, his hand can barely kind of fit around this, but it can pretty comfortably compared to my guitar. So it's a good way for you just to learn fretting and things like, and strumming, stuff like that you could transfer to a bigger instrument eventually. I don't know. I should learn some more songs. I do know. I feel like I know some more, but I just can't think of any right now. Anyway, that's the ukulele. I think it's fun to play an instrument. I think it's, it feels good in my hand, and I think it's good to days like today when it's so rainy and so oppressive and so just bland. It's nice to have something like that. And also I think acknowledging the weather, acknowledging how things are feeling can help mitigate some of its subtle effects on us and our mood and our sleepiness. That's my main takeaway on a day like today. It's just I want to go back to bed. But we can't, so here we are. I've got to do this stream, so and I don't really want to, but it's just, you know what I mean. You know the feeling of that the rain can cause, and I think it helps to notice the feeling, because if you're just kind of feeling down and you're not sure why, that can be kind of frustrating. Like, why do I feel this way? But I think if you notice, like, hey, it's actually rainy, so of course I feel this way, and you can kind of enjoy it a little bit. Almost like it would be kind of nice to have some lapsang tea and just sit and read a book on paper, like, as opposed to looking at a screen for a while. Like, that would be nice. Or I'm thinking I might like to take a walk. I don't know if it's gonna, like, I can walk in the rain, that's fine, right? I'd really like to take a little walk in the rain. Sometimes, especially in the fall, the colors can really pop. Like, leaf colors can really be pretty vibrant and bright on a rainy day. So if it's not, I mean, it's kind of misting at this point, I think. So I've barely been outside at all today, and I really would like to get outside. So I will probably do that later. But I hope you all are doing okay wherever you are. I should have said at the outset, this is Applied Digital Studies, DGSC 395, class at UMW. I'm Professor Zach Whalen, and I'm the professor. So that's what I'm doing here. Today's an important day in this class, and so I hope you're watching. I mean, obviously, if you can hear me say that, you are watching. But I have a lot of important things to get across, and I will type all this up into an announcement later, but hearing me explain it might work better, and it certainly would be more efficient than me typing it all. We're at kind of a turning point in this semester right now, and I want to kind of be with you to turn the ship, as much as I can, so to speak. So I'm a little concerned the viewer number is kind of low on Twitch right now, but hopefully it'll increase, and hopefully if you're watching this later, this still makes sense as I present it. Because this is the point of this semester where we're shifting gears. And the main shift that happens now is, as opposed to me putting out a lot of content and then you trying to interact with that and create things, now I kind of turn to you to start working on your own stuff. And there is a process here. There is a project that you're going to design. I will help you with that, but it's still going to be something that really needs to be initiated and motivated by your own interest and your own ideas for what you want to do. So it will become much more self-directed from your point of view than it has been so far. And that's an important thing to be prepared for. And I want to start that preparation today. I have a little bit, I've snuck a few things in, but today is really the first time I'm really going to be focusing on it. I want to do that by talking about the big project itself, the actual project that you're working on, and then also letting you know about an important, I guess, organizational change to the class that I've implemented in Discord, so that we can talk about that. Okay, before we get into that though, this is just a general comment about kind of where we are right now in the semester. We're about at the midterm, and this is the point in this class where things can start to get overwhelming, in the sense that if you're a little bit behind on things, which it happens to all of us, you might start to feel a little overwhelmed by it. And especially for those of you who are participating only online, there is always a risk, and I say risk, but it always happens, that for a few students that they miss a day, or they need to step back a little bit, and they tell themselves, well, I'll catch back up, I'll go back through it later. But then by the time you get back to it, it just becomes so much bigger than you thought. You think, well, there's no way I can catch up. You get discouraged, you get disconnected, and then you just never get back. You never reconnect. And I hate that. I don't want that to happen. But when that happens, it usually, I don't know about it until it's too late, because that student has disconnected, and so I don't know that they're not connecting because they're not connected. So it's a really tricky thing, and there's so many of you that it's hard for me to notice that. Whereas in a face-to-face class, if your seat was empty every day for a week, I would probably say, something's going on here, I should check out, I should check with them and see what's going on. Whereas if you're online, you may or may not be participating that much in Discord, and so if you are suddenly participating a little less, I don't necessarily notice that. I try to, but it's just without anything kind of formal checking in every day, it's I just really can't practically. So so that does happen, unfortunately. Now, a couple things. So let's look at the HTML and CSS project. I think some of you are still working on that. In fact, I can probably check and see how many of you have turned it in. But I don't think all of you have yet, and that's understandable and okay, right? So I want to assure you that that's understandable and fine. Maybe not. Well, I mean, I want you to finish it, so so it's not fine, but okay. You actually looks like quite a few of you still need to turn it in. So that's kind of what I thought. It's looking like something like 17 of you still need to turn this in, which is maybe more than I thought. That's okay in the sense that I'm not going to penalize you for turning it in late, but you probably want to wrap this up. You want to get it done soon so that you can move on to the next thing. Now, even if you are still working on it, I am still happy to help you work on it. I, in fact, really enjoy helping people solve problems with HTML and CSS. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do. So if you are in that point, if you're trying to get your thing to work and it's not working, a couple things. Like, first of all, maybe it doesn't matter that much and maybe you can move on, or maybe reach out and say, here's where I am, what do I need to do to fix this, and I can probably fix it for you, or I can at least point you in the right direction. So that's something that I have done a lot and I'm happy to keep doing. It is okay to keep asking for that kind of help if that's what you're still working on. Just notice my audio is out of sync and it's kind of annoying me, but hopefully it's not too bad to you. My video is a little bit ahead of my audio in the playback that I'm looking at, but hopefully it's not too bad where you see it. But yeah, LG Pros just says you're still working on yours. Fine, good. I would say get something done and so you can move on, but that's not a problem, right? I don't think less of anyone who's still working on theirs, and that's fine. Oh, there's a question, Jay Probst. Let me see. I was thinking of putting in the reflection. So if that's, I see what you're saying, but yeah, I was thinking of done as turning in the reflection. It's kind of hard to type and talk, but yes, that is the idea. So maybe you have already done it, but you haven't turned in the reflection. So like that's fine either way. The point is, I think what I'm trying to help you avoid is sometimes a student, in my class in particular, for this kind of project, they feel like alienated, they feel lost, they're like, I don't know what to do. And then they're like embarrassed to ask for help or like afraid because they feel like they're so far behind. But please don't let that happen, right? I mean, please don't let your hesitation prevent you from asking for help, because I want to help you. I'm not disappointed in you if you ask for help. Like I want you to ask for help. Like this class is not, in this project, this is not for people who already know how to do this. This is for people who are learning how to do this, and that's okay to not know how to do it. And I want you to know how to do it. I want to help you do it. So please reach out. Like that's totally fine. And that's true of any other previous module. If you're still working on either of the first two modules, even like let's get these things done. Like that's great. That's fine. So please don't let yourself disconnect. I think many of you have been. There's a group of you that have been kind of halfway between face-to-face and online. Like you want to come face-to-face, or you initially said you would, but then you decided to go online. If you are kind of in that limbo, I really do. I want to discourage you from thinking that online is easier, or if there's any kind of advantage for that. I mean, certainly there are plenty of good reasons to stay online. Health reasons, transportation reasons, absolutely fine. But I don't think that online is automatically easier. I really think, if anything, it's harder. Especially because of that, you lose that day-to-day connection to the class, where if I'm seeing you once or twice a week, I can kind of check in, see how things are going, and you kind of will prepare for those moments by being prepared or by knowing what's going on, and that will kind of keep it current. Where if you're on your own, there's a risk of putting it off and then getting behind and then never catching back up again. And I'm really afraid that that's going to happen to some of you. I mean, that said, the people that are watching this are probably not the people who I'm worried about, but it's still something that I am worried about generally. So please do make every effort you can to be online and connected to things. And if you feel like you are disconnected or worried about disconnecting, let me know, right? If you feel like there's this big mass of stuff and you're not sure where to even start, talk to me about it and I will help you find the right place to start or figure out the roadmap to get you back on track. And it may be actually just skipping one of the assignments. It really depends. So just all things considered, the big project is more important than any of the nodes. So if it comes to it, if you need to just sort of cut off one of the nodes, that's better than continually like staying bogged down in it to the point where you don't progress into the big project, because the big project is really the main thing for this class. So it's okay to leave that other stuff behind if it comes to that. All right, so here's a specific question from Wolfgang Jr. What I mean by that, Jonah, is that I'm trying to make sure that you understand the distinction between having the file on your computer versus having the file on your server. When you have the file on your server, the thing that you copy and paste from the web address has HTTP at the beginning of it. That's how you know it's a website, as opposed to having file at the beginning of it on your web browser. It's kind of hard to explain without a visible example, so hopefully this makes sense. But what's sort of awkward, and I've set my computer up differently, but in Chrome at least, and Safari, probably Internet Explorer too, whenever you're looking at a web address, it actually hides that part from you, the file where it says file : or HTTP : blah, blah, blah. So it's one or the other is there. So when you copy it and then paste it somewhere else, it'll be there when you paste it. So that's what I meant by that little instruction, is make sure that what you paste starts with HTTP. You should not add HTTP to the beginning if it's not already there when you paste it. I think some people did that, and that's incorrect, because that won't work. So I don't know if that makes sense, Jonah, but that's what I meant by that. Whether it's HTTP or HTTPS, that doesn't matter. But it does need to be HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. It needs to be basically it needs to be on the internet and not on your computer. Like that's what I mean by that. All right, and that's what you need to have it for to get it ready to share in the web ring. And I haven't checked on those today, but I think people are still adding to them, which is great. I did fix, by the way, I don't know if Emily Martin's watching, but I did fix your, so it does not always go to your Pokemon site whenever you click next. I had to basically rewrite the whole software because it's only like 10 lines anyway, but I had to rewrite most of it because it was kind of working, but there was some pretty important stuff that it was doing wrong. Yeah, I don't know, just out of date kind of stuff, like one of them, but the ultimate thing has to do with a web security shift and understanding of what kind of information your browser sends to the server. I don't want to get in the weeds with it, but it was I needed to change the way that was referenced and then do some pattern matching to kind of work around that, and then it was fine. It was interesting, but interesting to me, but maybe not to you. One thing I will say that was interesting is, and this is sort of like just internet trivia kind of stuff, the main thing that I had to fix had to do with this. It's called an environment variable. So it's something that's always present in the environment of the internet. And whenever you click on a link, the HTTP referrer is the thing, like when you get to that target page, the sending page is recorded as the HTTP referrer. So that's like where you came from just now, like the page you were on just before you came here. And interestingly, when you reference that in the code, it's misspelled. So it is coded at, like if you were to type the word referrer, you would type it like that with R-E-F-E-R-R-E-R. Like that's the correct spelling of the word. But when the W3, and it explains who these people are, but when they were there, they just misspelled it when they wrote the documentation for it and the specification for it. But then people started using it, and it was like, I guess, too late. So it's what people use, and so it's a misspelling. There's no technical reason for it to be that way, other than the fact that this Philip and Roy misspelled it when they wrote it and didn't notice it. Kind of a big deal, but went by them. So that's how it is. So it's pretty interesting. Basically, the HTTP referrer has changed how it's structured, and so it was not. That was my fix, but. Oh yeah, that was the web ring. Yeah, so that's something that should be a fun thing to add to. But ultimately, like I want to make sure you all feel like you've done something for Node 3 that you're proud of and happy with, and if not, then I can help you move on to that. Okay, so I want to move into something else that's a pretty important structural change to this class. I guess structural. so I mentioned the idea, or my anxiety, my fear that some of you might slip through the cracks. And again, probably not you if you're watching live, because you're the one, you're connected right now. But some people I feel like might be not watching right now, or might be watching later. And I think one of the challenges to an online class, and this essentially is an online class, is how hard it is to connect to a community and feel like you're part of a group that's doing something together. And that is an important idea for a class. It's an important thing to feel like the idea that you belong in a group is an important thing in a class, and I think it's a hard thing in an online class. So to try to help mitigate that, I created a whole bunch of small groups. I called them squads just to have some different terminology, and I put you in a squad. And this is a squad that is really just there as an informal place to check in with and to be a part of that squad. You can find your squad if you go to in Canvas, if you click on groups on the left. I don't have that toolbar, but I think you should have over on the left, somewhere over here, a tab called groups, and you should see a squad number that you're in, like squad 8 or squad 10 or squad something. So that's your squad. And this is an informal group. Don't do anything with this yet, but once you've, what I'm going to tell you to do is, first of all, find your squad. You can go to Canvas to check that. And then there's a channel in Discord for your squad. Some of them have already been renamed, so if you can't find which one you're trying to find, then let me know. But your first step to do is find your squad, find the channel in Discord that relates to your squad, and then come up with some other name besides the number, so that you'll have a different way to refer to each other, and I will have a different way to refer to you. It does not have to be anything fancy or clever, just something that helps me identify you. These groups are assigned randomly. The only thing I tried to do was put you with people that were like if you're online only, I tried to put you with other people who are online only, and vice versa. That was the only kind of discretion I applied in these. It's not a big deal. I mean, you're not collaborating with this group. You're not working on the project together. This is just a small group to have an audience with and to check in with occasionally. And that's the purpose here, is that you, if you feel a little lost in the big community of the class, hopefully you can feel like you belong a little bit more to this smaller group. This is the kind of structure that develops in this class normally just organically by how people tend to sit in the classroom. If you remember HCC 327, you got the 6 tables, and just the 4 or 5 people that tend to sit together can naturally form a kind of check-in group and work together on little day-to-day stuff. We don't have that opportunity here for the online and hybrid version of this class. But I thought this would be an okay way maybe to capture that again. We'll see. All I'm asking you to do right now is just check in with this group occasionally. And if you as a group notice that one of the member is not checking in or not replying whenever you kind of reach out, then let me know so that I will kind of follow up with them and see what's going on. It may be that they just missed a day, or it may be that they need a little bit more encouragement to connect. So go ahead and do that now. If you found your group, find the channel, and then in that channel, say hi, see who's there, and figure out another name for your team. And once you've figured out another name for your squad, just at me, just type at Zach Whalen and say, here's what we want to be called now. And I will change the channel name, and then I'll change the Canvas names later too. So, okay, so go ahead. See who's here and come up with a name. So I'll let you do that. I'm not going to talk over this. I'll let you kind of do that. I'll turn the music back on for a minute while you work on that. Let's see. Let me find. I'm going to go maybe if I go into this playlist, it'll actually pick up something from here. Cosmic Funk Odyssey. What is that? Yep, again, so I'm letting the music play, but that's just to have some background while you all are finding each other. Again, this is just find your group, and if the whole group's not there, whoever's there, go ahead and pick a name. There's nothing at stake here. So if you pick a name that everyone hates, then you can change it later. It does not matter. All right. I could also assign roles based on squads, but that would be pretty complicated, so I probably won't. lets you. Yeah, I ended up putting both Jessicas in the same group, not on purpose, it just ended up that way. I have to find that later. Okay, so my mic is still on, right? I hope so. Okay, good. So remember, let me know when you have come up with something, and even if it's not, totally final, that's okay. I just need something, and just at me at Zach Whalen when you're ready to suggest something, let's say. And it doesn't have to be good. If you're totally lost, right, you can Google like band name generator. There's several of those out there, so that might be fun. All right, let's see if I can find. I'll shut the music off. Let's see if I can find one if you're stuck. Band name generator, right? So let's see. Bandnamemaker.com. Sure, why not? If you already have a band, okay. Oh, you get to pick a style. Let's go with folk acoustic. Whoa. Okay, these are good. You could go with Imperial of Mandates, or Twiggy Trembling, or Many Dentists, Uranium of Nuisances, Underproof Proteins. Okay, fine. Oh, here's a bunch. Suture Near Asthma, Trumpet of Dragonfly. Cool, all right. So, pretty good options here. It doesn't do well with the of. Let's see. Let's do punk rock. Dutch casual. Okay, let's see what else we can get. Patching crack. Cheese called. Lord Bandits. We running. Ed Fronte. I like Ed Fronte. Instant Shock. Chicken number 1,002,294. Okay. There's some real candidates here. So yeah, bandnamemaker.com if you're stuck. All right, so let's see what we got. Group 13 is gonna go with Lucky Charms. Okay, great. I mean the number, right? That makes sense. Lucky Charms. And I'll change these in Canvas later, but that's fine. And it looks like some of the groups don't have, maybe there's no one in that particular group online at the moment, or there's only one person. If there's only one of you, go ahead and pick a name. Go to the band name maker and just go with it. But if, or just come up with something, and that'd be fine too. Waffle King, so, where'd you go? Where's my channel? I can't find my channel. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so find your squad. Look in the appropriate channel and choose a name. And Jonah, these are informal squads. These are not it's not a group project where you're working together. This is just a group for you to check in with and to seek feedback from. And sometimes maybe have a discussion or something. This is just the point is to have a smaller group as opposed to it being a big group for everybody at once. And I can look up where you're supposed to be. So you are in 12, squad 12, Waffle King Jr. So, and as you can see, I'm in every channel, but everyone is in every channel. Like these are the way Discord works. All these channels are here. If you don't want to hear another channel, by the way, you can mute a channel. If a group is having a chat and you're hearing that notification sound a lot, you can actually right-click on that group and then mute it, and so you won't hear their updates. I mean, you can see them if you click on it, but you won't see you won't hear the noise for them. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about the actual project because this is something that you will be, in some ways, discussing with your group, but this is not just to be clear, the big project is not a group project unless you really want it to be, okay? It could be, but I'll talk about kind of why that may or may not be a good idea. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears now and talk about that for the next bit of class, really the rest of this class. I'm gonna talk about the big project. So of course, if you're in your channels with your squad, feel free to continue chatting with them and getting to know them if you'd like, but I'm gonna take over here a bit. Okay, just one more run of the name generator. Duck Dead, that's pretty good. Rum Called, kind of like cheese, right? Alien Willie, that's a good one. I'm a fan of that one. The Merry Dancers, sure, okay, why not? So lots of good ideas here. Here's the big project. So for this class, we're about to shift gears into the big project. And I call this the big project, but let me assure you that big does not necessarily mean it has to be some grandiose thing. Big just really refers to the fact that it takes up most of the semester, or really about half of the semester. And so it's a long project in that sense, but it's not necessarily huge in terms of scope. So if you're making a video, it doesn't mean you're making a feature-length film. It just means that in terms of what you've done before, this would be something that is a challenge that takes some time and some planning. And I'm going to help with that planning. That starts today with generating ideas. So we're going to get there. But the point is to think about something that you can do something about. And this class is called Applied Digital Studies for a reason, and this big project is where the applied really happens. And as I suggest different ideas or show you how to think about different ideas, what I really want to challenge you to do is think of a project that will be a challenge for you, but that will be important. Something that will matter when it's done. And finding that thing can be hard, but that's part of the process, and that's part of why we talk about these ideas and why you share those ideas with each other. Something that matters, something that will make a difference. And in the context of this class, we've looked at several problems and questions and issues that we've made more complicated and problematized. And that's the kind of area that I would encourage you to look in as you're thinking about projects. And I'll show you some of those. But at its core, and even now, as you think about this, I'd like for you to think of this project in terms of these three components. First of all, a problem, which you could say question, so a problem or question, a tool, or you could say method, and then an artifact or a thing. And so you're posing some question or describing some problem, and then using a tool or methodology, you're going to create something that either solves that problem or answers that question. So these things are really linked, and maybe a triangle would be a better diagram, but hopefully you understand the differences here. And maybe if not, you'll see in the next slide, hopefully. The idea is that, and you can actually enter into this brainstorming at any one of these 3 points. So as you're thinking right now about a big project, like what could I spend the next couple months working on, you might already have a question in mind. You might already have a problem that you've noticed that you want to do something about. You might not. If you don't, maybe you have a tool that you're really interested in learning some more about, and you want to try to make something with that tool. Great. So those are the 2 kinds of things most people enter this project at. You could also enter it from the artifact standpoint, where let's say like in the last section, someone is really interested in audio. So you want to make an audio, so do you want to make music? Do you want to make a podcast? That's great too. Then let's figure it out in reverse, right? So so you want to make a podcast, what kind of tools do people use to make podcasts? And then what do you want to make a podcast about? Like what kind of problem could be solved by a podcast, or what kind of question could be answered by a podcast? And so you still have to build all 3 of these components, whichever one you enter from. So to get a little bit more structure, so these are, this is written this way because this is source code from something I'll show you in a moment. But these are examples of problems or questions, tools or methodologies in the middle, and then things that people have made. And so these are drawn in somewhat from prior student brainstorming sessions, and also just from stuff that I've noticed them doing. And so I've kind of curated this sort of informally. And I'm going to invite you to add to this list in a moment, and then show you how to kind of practice with some ideas. But let me talk about a couple of these just to clarify what kinds of things we're talking about. If you look in the orange column here, the one on the left, it's a list of things that, these aren't phrased as questions, but I would encourage you to phrase yours as a question or as a problem. Something like, what should we do about fake news? Or how should we improve access to the web? Or what should we do about toxic masculinity? Is there a gap? Do women face a gap in STEM? These are things that you could pose as questions, right? And I think that especially in the sense in which we're all super connected and super not connected these days, right? I mean, on the one hand, we are relying a lot more on technology to connect with each other than we used to. At the same time, we're also increasingly alienated from each other and isolated. So, how do those things balance or come into conflict? How do we kind of fix that? Like, what do we do about that? Like, those are important questions that I don't have immediate answers to, and maybe you don't either. But creating a project that explores that could be a really valuable thing to do. And of course, along the way, you might learn a skill by trying out one of these tools. Who knows, right? So that's kind of the fun part of it. Okay, let's take a look then at, so here's what I'd like for you to do. Looking at the list on the left in particular, tell me if you can, do you see any topics, or do you have any questions, or do you know of any problems that are not currently on this list that we should add, right? So talk about this in your squad. Like go to your squad channel and brainstorm a little bit. Like what kinds of things are you noticing? Like what kinds of things have come up recently, or just either on social media or in discussions about media, or just like in your explorations online, like what's going on? Like what is there out there? And of course, some of these topics we've talked about in class. So AI and morality, e-waste, if you were in GGSD 101 with me, we talked about that a lot. So these are things that you may have seen in a class, my class or some other class. But I think you might do better maybe finding topics that have occurred to you on your own, or that you've encountered on your own out in the world, exploring the web, right? So talk about it in your group, and I will kind of monitor your discussions there in Discord and try to add some of your ideas to this thing here, which is the source code of a little bot thing that we can use to generate project ideas. I will say this as a disclaimer now and repeat it later, that most of the projects that this thing will generate are bad, but that's kind of the point, and you'll see, hopefully you'll see what I mean. So talk about it in your channels a bit. Like what kinds of things do you want to do? All right, so now let you all talk a bit, or chat a bit here, and I'll kind of monitor these things. Misinformation and fake news is big. I agree. Oh, and Megan's online too. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, I mean, and so just to put this out there too, like the fact that something has been done before does not mean it's done. You know, like when these are problems, these are likely still problems, right? I mean, fake news is still a problem, and even though there have been students who have done projects on fake news, like fake news is still a thing, and it's still a big deal. So it's still a problem that needs to be solved, and so it's okay to keep working on these. Some of these things have even higher stakes now than they did when somebody first suggested this. Yeah, so yeah, I think tech addiction is an interesting idea. I want to call it social. Well, I'll follow the phrasing there. So I'll just call it tech addiction. But yeah, sort of. Right, over commitment to screen time or whatever you want to call it, that could be an issue. And I'm just kind of lurking and poaching your ideas. Cafe au lait. That's an interesting idea. Group 8. I don't know if I can do the apostrophe in the channel name. I'll try. Oh. I can't. No, I can't. Channel names are restricted to letters and numbers and hyphens, so hopefully that's okay. It doesn't quite work with, but because it looks like cafe au lait, I think. You don't get the idea that it's a French word without the apostrophe, but hopefully that's okay. Yep. Yep. Good ideas coming through. Oh, it looks like group 11 wants to be the Eagles. Sure. The Eagles. Cool. And also, I mean, group 11, I don't know if any of you are watching still, but glad to see you all helping each other with some things. And yeah, I mean, that whole process, there are multiple, I described it multiple times, so if you know when it occurred in one of the live streams, then that's great. So thank you for that. I can also describe it too, but I think it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like I've described it a lot, so it's easier to point to something where I've already said it. All right, so let's see if I can find, yeah. So you all are good being the Eagles. Okay, cool. Yep. Yeah, web access, good. Yeah, okay, so good stuff. So I think this is pretty good. So let's see, there's some other things too. Let me scroll it down and then invite you to brainstorm on this as well. You've got several tools that you might use to make a project. And as I said earlier, sometimes people are really interested in a particular tool and they want an excuse to learn it. I personally find that that's how I approach things a lot. Like or a programming language like Python, let's say. You want to learn more about Python. So that could be an entry point as well. But then you have to think about like what kind of thing can I make with Python, and then what kind of problem could I solve or question could I answer about that thing with Python. You know, you have to make sure that all those dots connect, but that's still doable. For most of the time though, a student comes up with an artifact idea and then I end up suggesting a tool to do that. So they want to make a Twitter bot, they're not sure how. So I might connect them to Cheap Bots Done Quick, or I might connect them to a different tool depending on what kind of thing they have in mind. So that's that part. Like if you have so I'll pose it as a question. So is there a question you have, or is there somebody has a question? Is there a tool that you would like to use, right? That's not on this list. Maybe I mean, I feel like it's a pretty comprehensive list of things that people have done in the past, but there might be others. So is there a tool that you'd like to use that is not here? So yeah, so Devin asked a question, can it be any topic? And the answer is yes. But because this is a digital studies class, we do need to make sure that like you're learning a new technology to make it, or you're producing a technological artifact at the third point, like for the third item in that diagram. Yep. And in fact, many of these topics even aren't inherently technical, but they're things you could address with an interesting digital project, I think. Cool. Okay, great. So then finally, artifacts, and these are often implied by the tool. So for example, if you want to make hypertext, then Twine is probably the best way to do that. Likewise, if you're working with Twine, probably hypertext is what you want to make with it. Or choose your own adventure game, which is maybe a different kind of thing. There's a bit of semantic slippage there, but that is a kind of tool that really does one thing pretty well. It can do other things, but you kind of have to work with it to get it to do those things. So in terms of evaluating your project, you have to think about where is my effort best spent? Do I need to work on wrangling this tool to do this thing, or is there a better tool that I could use and then focus on the research and the content or whatever else you need? Okay, so this is what this all adds up to, and I'm going to, okay, we have just a few minutes left, but that should be time to explain this. Okay, so a couple of disclaimers again. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This is not a group project. This is something that you are in a group now just to have an audience to share your work with, your work in progress, and to commiserate with, right? They're not really teams in the sense of working together unless you decide to. And if you do decide to, I will have some questions, but it's possible, right? But bearing in mind that I put you all together randomly, I don't really know that will happen very much. But if it does, great. If not, great. What this is, what I've got here, this is a project idea generator. It works very similar to, I'm sure, what they have going here for this band name maker generator, where what it does is it takes a topic and pairs it with a tool and an artifact. And it's random. It's totally random. So many of the things that it generates here are going to be completely bad. Like, they don't make sense. And that's part of the point here, because I want you to understand how there are certain kinds of, like choosing the right tool is a big part of success. And if you choose a poor tool for the thing you're trying to do, then you're going to have a bad time. And so part of the work early on is evaluating different tools, understanding what they can do and what they can't do, and then choosing one that you can work with. So I don't assume rather that you know most of these tools yet, but this is part of the process of kind of evaluating and deciding what to do for your project. So I'll put this in the live stream chat, and check out this project generator and see if it comes up with any good ideas. So I just put that in the live stream chat. So check that out and try it out. See if you come up with a good one or come up with a ridiculous one. Like this one I think is a pretty bad idea. The one that's up here right now. Make a Twitter bot with timeline.js. Pretty much impossible. I mean, technically, timeline.js works in a spreadsheet, and there's a scripting engine in Google Spreadsheets that you could use to write Google script code to create a Twitter bot with. In fact, I've done that in a different context, and if you'd like to do it that way, it's on codes on GitHub. I can link to it. But there are already much better ways to make Twitter bots, so I would not do it. And also to make it address tech addiction, like I don't know. I don't think that you're really gonna change anyone's mind with a Twitter bot about tech addiction. I mean, maybe, but I would really want to understand why. All right, let's try another one. Social media page with Avid Pro that addresses fake news. Well, social media, like Avid Pro is a video editor, I think, right? Or video. Actually, I don't even know what that is. But certainly, social media is a context where you could address fake news. I think that actually makes sense, except the tool, I don't remember what Avid Pro is. It's not one that what is this? Oh, I didn't want to do that. What is that? How did I do that? Oh, it's a digital audio workstation. Okay, cool, yeah. So you would be producing, probably music or, maybe a podcast, but doing that in a social media context would definitely evolve more than just an audio workstation. So let's do what else. Change people's minds about online test monitoring with a vlog. Can't really make a vlog with HTML, but I do think a vlog, like a video blog, I guess, could probably have some things to say about online test monitoring. But I don't know. You'd have to come up with recurring content for it to be a vlog as opposed to a video. So I don't know. Every now and then we hit one that really makes sense, so it's not totally a waste. Yeah, I mean, this one actually, you could do that. Storyboard that, if I understand it, if I remember correctly, it's basically like it creates storyboards or like picture book kind of things. And you could definitely do one about technological waste. So that one actually is viable. I don't know if it's the most amazing project, but that sounds doable. Use SoundCloud to create a game? That would be interesting, actually. I don't know. I guess you could put links at different points in an audio track or have different tracks hidden around or something. Maybe with a Twine game, that would be kind of cool. And then you have different embedded audio at different points, depending on choices you made, and that makes audio. I think that's viable, but not amazing. Make a song with Game Studio? Not really. Use Python to create a game that deals with the dark web. Okay, you could do this. I mean, there are different Python-based game engines that you're writing Python code and then you end up with a game. I would say in general, that's usually more effort than using something like Game Studio or Game Maker or RPG Maker or a ton of other things. But if you already feel like you know Python really well, that might be an okay way to do that. That's just, it depends. And it also depends on what kind of game. If it's a text-based game, Twine or Inky might be better, maybe in Form 7, but if it's something that has any kind of graphics, you can do some graphic stuff with Python, so maybe that would be viable. I don't know, be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. A webcomic with Java? I would definitely not want to do that. But anyway, the point is to expose how some of these things fit together pretty well and many of them may not. And also maybe just by juxtaposing things you hadn't thought of to help you come up with and generate some ideas. So try it out and see if you can come up with anything. Maybe it's amazing, maybe it's not. But if you do find a really good one, change it in, or share it in your squad and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or share it in, somewhere in Discord and just say, hey, look, this is a pretty good idea, or this is a really terrible idea. The point is to understand how these three things, they have to be put together intentionally. Again, there's the questioner problem, there's the tool or method, and then there's the artifact. So you really have to think about all three of those things at the same time. So let me show you a little bit about what you're going to be doing with this, and then I need to wrap it up. So this is an assignment that has multiple components and multiple pieces, And probably the biggest component and most complex is the proposal. And that's the first thing that's due, is due actually next week. And so I want to talk about it here. The assignment description, I just want to say, probably looks intimidating if you're looking at it for the first time, but that length and level of detail is meant to be helpful, meaning that you don't have to think too much about the structure or what to put where. It's kind of laid out for you, and then the idea is you fill it in with your ideas. And also, like, you'll see the kinds of things you need to know at this point in order to propose it. So this is, doesn't have to be fun, like you shouldn't have I don't expect you to have the entire project figured out A to Z and you've got it all ready to go. That's not the case for anybody, basically. Instead, you should have some things, you should be prepared to figure those things out. And part of the proposal here is kind of demonstrating that you have a reasonable work plan for doing this. And some people ask, do I ever reject a proposal? No, I'm not going to say no. Like if you say, here's my idea and you lay it all out, my response is going to be a yes and kind of response. So I'm going to say, okay, this is a good idea. How about this? And I might suggest a different tool, or I might suggest narrowing the scope of what you're trying to accomplish. That's usually what I end up doing. But I'm not going to reject these, but I do want you to come up with this as a persuasive document. The only thing I might say no to actually is the group aspect. Part of what you would do if you do have a group project in mind is you need to convince me that this needs to be a group project, that there's no other way to get this done. Just because I think people, especially for a big kind of amorphous project like that, sometimes groups have a hard time finding a role for everyone to play, and then you end up with some people doing basically nothing, and ultimately the project isn't that great. So I really want to understand that, especially that's something that you really need to convince me of, that this is a project that can only happen if I have these 3 people working on it, or whatever you end up deciding to do. But I'll talk a lot more about this proposal maybe on Wednesday. As you can see, it's very detailed, so that's, again, on purpose, but hopefully not too intimidating. All right, so I need to wrap it up, I think, right? So I will do that. Let me check my time. Here, I'm gonna wake up my computer, so that's how long it's been. Yeah, I definitely need to wrap it up. Okay, I will. So again, to reiterate a couple things from the beginning in case you weren't here for that. If you're still working on the HTML CSS project for Node 3, that is okay. If you have questions, that is okay. Please ask them. I don't mind answering them. I'm not like thinking less of you because you're still working on Node 3 or even Node 2 or Node 1. Like I want to help you be successful. So let me help you wherever you are. Just don't feel shy. Don't feel embarrassed about it. I'm here to help. Similarly, if you just feel disconnected and lost and you're not sure where to begin to get back on track, please talk to me about that so I can help get you back on track. I can come up with a roadmap for you, show you the things that are important to do, some of the things that you can just probably skip and you'll be fine. But that's something that I have to do individually. So reach out, let me know. If you're struggling or lost, I don't necessarily know that unless you tell me. So please tell me. All right, that's the reason I'm here, is to help people get less lost. All right, well, I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a good afternoon. It looks like it might have stopped raining all the way, so I think I'll probably go take a walk in a little bit. Okay, great. Well, I will see you all, some of you Wednesday, some more of you Friday, and everyone, I'll see you all online. So cool. Take it easy.